Today, my presentation is on roundabouts and pedestrians. Specifically, I'm looking at the benefits and costs of this transportation solution. I'm going to go to slide number 2 and give a presentation overview. During this presentation, I'm going to give you some background information about roundabouts, go over some differences between modern roundabouts and traffic circles. I will discuss benefits to drivers, go over how roundabouts and pedestrians interact. I'll discuss cost to pedestrians. I'm going to give some solutions and some conclusions. Next slide. Background on roundabouts. So the first roundabouts were basically circular junctions in roads. There are examples going back hundreds of years. For example, the Place de l'Étoile in Paris, France goes around the Arc de Triomphe, and it dates back to the late 18th century. In the 1960s in the UK, we saw standardization of roundabouts, which led to, next slide, modern roundabouts. So, according to the Washington State Department of Transportation, a modern roundabout is a circular intersection where drivers travel counterclockwise around a center island. There are lots of differences between modern roundabouts and traffic circles, which predate modern roundabouts. Roundabouts are traditionally going to be smaller. They do not have stop signs or traffic signals. Traffic circles do sometimes have those. Modern roundabouts can be used by large vehicles like 18-wheeler trucks. They're designed to accommodate them. The entrance to a modern roundabout versus a traffic circle is a gentle curve instead of a straight line. Modern roundabouts also have a raised central island, and they have a splitter island for pedestrians, and we're going to discuss those splitter islands a bit more later on in the presentation. On the next slide, we're going to look at the modern roundabout versus a traditional intersection. The first picture shows a modern roundabout and the various points of potential collision between vehicles using the roundabout. If you compare that to the other picture of a traditional intersection, you see that there are so many more collision or potential collision points between a modern roundabout and a traditional intersection. So it must be stated and made clear that modern roundabouts do provide a safer traffic solution as one of their benefits. So we'll move on to the next slide to discuss more benefits for drivers. One of the benefits of the modern roundabout is increased safety performance. And what that translates to is fewer and less severe collisions. Modern roundabouts, unlike traditional intersections, do not have 90-degree interactions. So there will be almost no T-bone or head-on collisions that happen in a modern roundabout, those are very dangerous and often fatal type of traffic accident. Another benefit for drivers in a modern roundabout is increased traffic capacity. That leads to less traffic congestion, which decreases the amount of time for trips on the road for vehicles. Another benefit for drivers is less time idling. What would happen at a traditional intersection is drivers would wait in line behind a stop sign or a traffic signal, and during that time their car would be idling. That is a waste of gas, that increases air emissions, and when you're spending less time idling, you're going to see improved vehicle performance, lower operation costs, and lower emissions. So these are some of the benefits for drivers of roundabouts. Now I'd like to take a look at the relationship and how pedestrians interact with roundabouts on the next slide. There are design features integrated into modern roundabouts specifically for pedestrians. If you look at the picture at the top on the left, you'll see the brown and white crosswalk. Traditionally, at a traditional intersection, the crosswalk would be right at the edge in front of the traffic. And in a modern roundabout, the crosswalk is further back. This allows pedestrians and vehicles more visibility of one another, which increases safety. Additionally, you see the brown triangular islands. These islands provide a place for pedestrians to wait in between traffic, and it allows them to focus on only one lane of traffic going in one direction at a time. So as they enter the intersection from one side, they deal with traffic heading into the roundabout or exiting the roundabout. They wait at the traffic they wait at the traffic island for the traffic going the other way. So that's a basic interaction between a pedestrian and a roundabout. What we get though is that this is more of an inconvenience and a difficulty that leads to greater costs for pedestrians in using roundabouts versus vehicle users of roundabouts. So if you look at the picture in slide number 9, you'll see the pathway number 1, pathway number 2, and pedestrians using roundabouts have to take longer routes. Another issue that turns into a cost for pedestrians is because there are no stop signs, because there are no traffic signals, there's no designated time to cross. Pedestrians have to wait for and anticipate gaps in traffic. That gives them the opportunity to cross to the triangular island I spoke about before and then get to the other side. This is an increased difficulty for people with disabilities, people that use mobility aids, people that are visually impaired have great difficulty with navigating roundabouts and crossing as pedestrians. So we demonstrated the ways we're heading to the next slide. We demonstrated the ways that modern roundabouts can benefit vehicle users of the transportation system. And those same features that benefit vehicles translate to be costs to pedestrians. So in this table, I've laid out those features, how they benefit drivers, and then the cost to pedestrians of that same feature. So no traffic signals means no queuing for drivers. They don't have to wait in a line at a red light or behind a stop sign. But what that means to pedestrians is that there's no designated time to cross. A feature, a benefit of increased traffic volume means that vehicular users of this transportation solution have more efficient and faster movement. What that translates to for pedestrians is fewer gaps in crossing. So it's more difficult to get across the road as a pedestrian. The feature of crosswalks being further back gives drivers more time to see pedestrians, but it creates longer pathways for pedestrians who are walking. The American Disabilities Act creates standards for use and accessibility for people with disabilities. And there are suggestions that come from the American Disability Act, as well as some of the studies that I looked at from Europe that made suggestions for how modern roundabouts can be updated with design features that accommodate pedestrians, especially those with mobility issues and or visual impairment. So one of such is making changes to crosswalk placement. Crosswalk placement in modern roundabouts being further back is a design feature that's already there. However, it was suggested that they be placed even further back to create space for pedestrians to cross safely, with a lot more room to gauge speed and gaps within traffic so that they can cross safely. There's another suggestion in the change of crosswalk placement is a zigzag design, which gives even more room between cars for pedestrians to walk. Another suggestion which would be a huge impact for visually impaired users, is the use of sound applications. There is a sound strip, a piece of technology that stretches across the road, and as each car axis rolls over it, it emits a sound that can help a visually impaired person determine if a car has yielded or has gone through and entered to completely enter or completely exit the roundabout. Another option, which is shown in the picture, is signalized options. These signals would be driven by pedestrians instead of vehicles. They would be able to be controlled by pedestrians who can request stops or yields in traffic so that they can safely cross. Another is automated yield detection, similar to the sound application that I discussed earlier, but this will work for visually impaired and mobility impaired users of the transportation system also. To conclude my presentation, I want to discuss the importance of transportation planners and engineers considering every single user of the transportation system and transportation in the application of transportation designs and solutions. The modern roundabout features many benefits that increase safety, decrease pollution, increase efficiency, and they largely do benefit vehicle users. So we have to also keep in mind other users of the transportation system, pedestrians in particular, and those pedestrians with mobility issues and visual impairment issues in particular. My research was done looking at various studies, the majority of which were done in Europe. And the suggestions came from studies done in Italy, as well as one from the United States. So if you have any questions, feel free to email them to me and I'll be sure to answer them for you. Thank you for your time today.